made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small grooves into launchpad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launchpad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launchpad flights.
Process that you have in something, the more challenging it becomes. And so it takes me back to, some of the things I said to you guys is God is in the midst of the praise of his people, praise him in all things, and praise unlocks blessing. And that is faith. And that came from my mama.
Are we on?
Yeah,
of course we are. Hello.
We're going, man.
Good to see you.
We're going. It's good to see you too.
Yeah. It's not like I just saw you. We've seen each other for the past hour and a half.
I even wore my glasses too. So I was, but back to what we were talking about the production of the podcast and stuff like that. I think most of the time people they don't start. They don't, they wait for it to be perfect. They wait for everything to be exactly in line, and they don't start in that scenario. And when you don't start, then, you don't get to make mistakes and have fun and,
Yeah, and it's the same thing like people set up a business and they spend so much time getting the system set up and just right, and they don't just like make product and sell it or whatever it is that they're doing. I call it like selling an empty box. They get the box right and the tape right, and they get the Spotify right or whatever, the newsletter right, and then they don't do anything, know? And so, that's sort of another way of saying it. Like you said, we're saying it. I don't know. Okay, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Someone asked me this a couple days ago at dinner. Are you a black and white thinker or a shades of gray thinker?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think in certain areas, I don't buy into, this is the thing that maybe it's a sidestep in your question, but it's inside of it. So
don't worry. If you sidestep it, I will bring you right back in.
We'll loop it back.
But wait, before you answer, instinct.
It depends on the situation.
Okay, fair enough.
When it's systematic in business, for me, it's black and white.
How about relationships and circumstances? Like
all
when
gray.
Stuff's happening, all gray. Why?
Because it deals with humans, right? When you're dealing with systems, there's no emotion. When you're dealing with humans, there's emotion, there's backstory. A system doesn't have a backstory. I guess it would have, but like, say for me, this is where I failed a ton, was I didn't know the difference between the two. So what I would do is I'd love the system and manage people. That's when you fail, right? So a system can be managed, but it can't be loved.
Right.
A person can be loved because you can run over my bike with your car. But my backstory of Craig is that I'm friends with you for years and years and years. And you know what? You just happen to run over my car or the thing. System says you ran over my car, you're an absolute piece of garbage. Or you ran over my bike, you're a piece of garbage. When we look circumstantially and systematically, that's, I think that can be black and white.
When I would first try to answer that question for myself, I'd go, no, black and white. But that's not at all how I live my life. Black and white for me, there is an objective right and wrong with things like, moral stuff. But situationally, I'm a gray thinker because I find the shades of gray, that's where the nuance comes in. And that's where like there's lessons and there's missed like things. Like I saw a video the other day. We talked about it earlier. I saw this guy this weekend. His name's Tiki. He doesn't mind him telling. And he's a retired mixed martial artist. And there's this viral video going around where he's standing peacefully at a party or something. And this other influencer guy is just being a jerk. Okay. And first of all, being a jerk. Did he
slap him?
Well, no. They're just standing there talking. And this influencer guy, younger guy, is being a jerk to Tiki. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm never going to be that way to anybody who's like built like, doesn't buy small shirts. This guy's his arms are as big as my waist. Okay. And so first of all, bad judgment. But looking at it, it looks like when I first saw the video, and finally Tiki just goes, you don't want to do this. blah, blah, blah. He literally hits him with his elbow. I'm surprised the guy's still alive.
Yeah,
I mean, this thing, but it was just calm, cool, collected, and he did it. Now, looking at the video, I'm like, oh, that guy's going to get sued. Tiki made a mistake. You know, I happened to get to see him this weekend on a friend of mine's boat. And I said, hey, I saw the video. And he goes, yeah. And he was a very calm person. And I said, can I just, there's no judgment here. I said, did he like aggress you? Did he, because he goes, no, I could totally get sued. He goes, but you know what? I saw his pupils. I saw his stance change. I saw the way he was squaring up to me. For some reason, I knew the punch was coming. So I just, you know, I took, you know, what is it? You know, I acted before.
Action, yeah.
He took action. And so I missed all that because I didn't see the video. That was a shade of gray that I missed. It was black and white. It looks like this guy just hauled off and punched somebody. Mm-hmm. And you can't punch someone in life just because they're saying bad things to you, you know? But this guy saw enough where he knew that punch was coming right away. It's like preemptive war. Now there's people who discuss is that right or wrong. But in this case, I'm like, no, I get it. You know, I get it. I would have walked away, but I'm not 6'4" mixed martial artist, you know, power dude.
Well, I think it's
not 5'4" either, but
well, that kind of nuance, you know, for me it's tough because again, it depends on the situation, right? Yeah. So when you're dealing with people, all kind of gray, dealing with system, it can be black and white, and that's again where I've got myself in tons of trouble, you know, and in times past, and this is why I think that there's sayings that people try and simplify everything and put things into a box. So there's one saying that I disagree with completely is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. I don't believe that's true.
No, I don't know.
Because what people want to do is they want to say, oh, well, that's the quick fix. Well, that's not the truth because I've seen ridiculously disciplined people at work that I get into their car and their car is messy.
Right.
I've seen people who have a phenomenal home, like it's just put in place, that don't have crazy work ethic and don't do that with someone else's stuff. So I think that it's like whenever, and this was the thing that I learned from my wife, is whenever you put a blanket statement over the top of everybody, that's generally a recipe for disaster.
Well, you said this, where you get the guy who's totally together in one place and not together in another place. You go, well, that's because togetherness, that's not his core operating value. His core operating value's got to be something else because if he's, and it could be that he doesn't care about the car. In other words, the car is not something that's concerning to him because maybe it's politeness. Maybe it's professionalism is his core operating value and no one else is in his car. So screw it. You look at my car, my trunk, sometimes you can't even put a Tic Tac in my trunk because that's where I put all the stuff in my car when I want someone to ride with me. I just dump it in the trunk. Yeah. So, I mean, again, what's their core operating value? I do think people do, to play the devil's advocate, they do have a consistency, but where and this is shades of gray, where they are appearing to be inconsistent, you're just not, you don't have your finger on their core operating principles. If you did, I think you'd find that they are pretty homogenous in how they approach life, and that's just something I thought of now. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, I mean, I
you know what I'm saying?
I could be completely wrong on these things. I just look at it and say that most of the time when someone puts together a large statement, blanket statement like that, you know, it would be the same as saying that you can't be a successful fat businessman.
Right.
That's not true.
Yeah.
That person, the way he does one thing is the way he does everything. The way he works out is the same way that he does business. That's not true.
Exactly.
Right? And so when we go through and we look at human beings, I mean, we're complex. You know, we have different emotional states. Things are, you know, but to your point, the value part of it, what do you value? We talked about this morning, like how grateful are you in certain situations? And what was cool in the room was gratefulness meant 4 different things to 4 different people.
Yeah.
And we ran around the room and it was like, I'm grateful for the things that are positive. We started on that part. And then it was like, well, I'm grateful for the lessons that I'm learning. And then it was like, well, I'm grateful for the fire that I'm in right now. And none of those were right. None of those were wrong. They were just coming from a different perspective.
However, if you ask somebody and ask them to rapid fire back, hey, tell me what you're grateful for, it's usually going to be a list of blessings. It's I'm grateful because I'm in good health. I'm grateful that I have enough money. That I'm not worried about that. I mean, think of the other ones. I'm grateful, my kids are all going to Harvard, all expenses paid. That's great. They're so smart. And never really the first few things are, and I'm really grateful that I'm struggling in my business. I'm really grateful that my boss sucks. Yeah. And we had one guy this morning, it wasn't that, it was something completely different. I can't remember what it was, but it's not high on the list. And as I started making my list, the first thing I said was health, because I'm pretty healthy. And then as I started, really I don't drink Fanta now. I'm drinking, the Fanta is going to be a running joke. I'm drinking La Croix. I think it's, or LaCroix. I don't know how to pronounce this, but did you know, by the way, that
how did we get a silent X?
Even if Evian, the water, it's naive spelled backwards, literally letter for letter. So I don't believe in fancy water. LaCroix is great.
I don't like Evian anyway.
I don't either. No, I don't like Perrier or Evian. LaCroix is French. It's nothing against the French, but it's so good.
Who's it made by?
Croix? I mean, that sounds like a French word, doesn't it?
French word.
That's
definitely
okay. So back to, I'm so not sorry that we diverted, because when we divert, it's awesome. But so we're talking about blessings and gratefulness, and I was thinking about why I hadn't put down my challenges. And remember Proverbs was 17 today.
Yeah,
we're talking about the crucible, the fire.
Yeah,
and what is it's like, my gym philosophy. Remember what I said about the gym? You don't ever go to the gym. Like, I can't believe you go to the gym and what's your goal at the gym? To get healthy and to get stronger, right? And you look at the gym machine and you don't get pissed off that it's there in your way of getting healthy because it's so damn heavy and it presents so many obstacles and it's so hard to lift. That's why you're there, And also that's the benefit. That's the only way that you're going to get your mission accomplished, by going to the gym. So everybody gets that. You don't see people pissed off at the gym because they're lifting stuff. And brings you back to the gratefulness thing. We always get pissed off sometimes at our challenges. Yeah. And that's not going to appear. That's how it comes back. That won't appear on the list of your gratitude items.
Well, I think it brings it back to the simplicity of my, what my mom would say. She would just say those three things: God's in the midst of the praise of his people. Praise him in all things, and praise unlocks blessing, right? And so when we look at that, you really, and as we were talking at the end of the men's group, the tough thing is to praise when you can't see anything, to praise in the dark. Like, it's very simple to praise when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, or you can even see the blessing. Even after a hard event in your life. If you're after actioning the hard event in your life, it's easy to put a silver lining on the cloud. But what you're saying is when you're in the middle of it, you're like, this you're sucks. In that, But that's the part that's us working on faith, right? Yeah, and so when we work on faith as opposed to circumstance, that's where, I believe that God just calls us to look at and say, like, when you're in the midst of, when you're dealing in business and something doesn't go your way, like right when it's happening, when that person's pissing you off or that person's grinding you or whatever, when you start to think in that moment, what's crazy, what I've seen in my life is that's when the blessing starts to unlock. And it's almost as if the blessing stays locked until the praise comes, because the praise in that means that you're working on faith, not circumstance. And when that happens, it changes the whole game. And I'm not good sometimes at tolerating discomfort by instinct. I have to consciously, I said this today, I can't step out of the situation because it's happening, but I can step back for a second. And once I step back, all of a sudden, the opportunity to start to see the gray shows up. And then I can, as you say, I can praise in that moment. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. Well, thank you that we're having this hard moment, and then you can smile, then you're calm, and you can reply. You can, I hate to sound like a poster. You can be your best self, Well, I think though too,
it's like step out, but not back. You can step back, but not out. And I think that's something I literally just said for the first time 20 minutes ago. And I wrote it down because I think it's super because it gives you that space. And praising in the hardship, in the midst of it, it's that song, I'll praise you on the mountain. I'll praise you when the mountain's in my way.
I don't know that song.
It's a great, okay, that's because I'm a terrible singer. No. I also know that I am never going to make money in the professional music business. But I praise you on the mountain when things are great. Yeah. And I praise you when the mountain's in my way.
Okay.
That's really good.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like the lyrics. I think that if we go back to preemptively, and this is what we talked about earlier, when we go back to preemptively, stepping back is obviously it's a muscle that you train. But what I would encourage people to do, or I encourage myself to do, is, and I had this happen on Friday night. I lost my crap again. Friday night lights football. It seems to be where I lose my stuff a lot, and as opposed to training yourself to step back, preemptively filling yourself up, right? Because like we talked about it earlier in men's group too, as far as that wars are won in peacetime preparation. And, it's good to work our step back muscle. That's awesome.
I like that. Work your step back muscle.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. Work your. I'm literally. I'm not texting while we're podcasting. Work.
No, you're fine.
Your
But if you're
step. Did you just make that up now?
I mean,
come
I
on.
just said it.
You
I
can
don't know
say
if
it.
I made it up.
Step back muscle. I love that.
But also too, your step back muscle only has to be engaged when you're not prepared.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And so
Wow.
that's the part that's challenging. And the challenging part is to prepare for stuff you can't see. Right. And prepare for something like, it's very simple. Like if you talk about with you're very financially savvy. You're a guy who has prudence. You think towards the future when you're in business or when you're buying an item, and you don't buy an item, Craig, like when you go to an auction. You don't buy an item and without the thought of selling it, right? You're not just randomly buying a bunch of crap. You're buying World War II memorabilia, and in your head, you're thinking, okay, when and where and who can I sell this to? So you're preemptively setting yourself up, whereas most of the time we're dealing reactive. And the world has the tendency to train us reactively. When this happens, when you're triggered, do this. Well, let's talk about, let's go to the root of it. If you think about with whether it be trees or plants or any of those things, figuratively, if you chop down, if you cut out the weeds on the top of the surface, but you don't take the weed or the roots out, they're going to come again.
They grow back.
And I think that's where I've been challenged is, this week I flew off the handle again, like I did.
Can't even imagine that.
Well, I did.
I believe you because you're not.
I have justification in my head. It's a gray area.
Right.
I think that I was justified. I still do.
Okay.
Although, there's a root to that,
Of
and
course.
and until I find the root and dig out the root and deal with it preemptively, then those things are gonna. My step back muscle is gonna have to be strong, but. Again, I think it's good to have a step back muscle. I think it's good to be strong, but I think on the flip side of it, it's where, how can we prepare? How can we go through our daily bread? How can we, and the hard thing is with the relationship with God is it's not a set and forget. It's not a, I built this muscle and I built it when I was 20 and I still get to rely on it.
Okay.
That doesn't work.
So step back muscle. How do you grow it? How do you build a stronger step back muscle, Kelly?
I think that you don't prepare and it forces you to have to work it. That's the challenge.
But how do you work it? How do you build a better step back muscle?
Well, by not preparing.
I don't get it.
So if I don't prepare, I'm going to have to engage my step back muscle.
Oh, I'm understanding step back muscle, meaning not stepping back because things are getting like so crazy that you're just trying to. I thought stepping back, the way I heard step back muscle, this is a voluntary action you take to just step back a second so that you can. Remember, I said step back, not step out, and you turned it into the step back muscle. Yeah. So I'm feeling that this is more like a judgment and wisdom kind of thing where you've actually, it's not instinctually stepping back, you're actually stepping back on purpose. For a purpose, which is that you can start to see the shades of gray. You can consider, you take a little time, take a breath. If that's the step back muscle you mean, how do you grow that?
Well, I think that if you have to step back and take a breath, it means that you didn't prepare for that situation before you stepped into it because you would have stayed calm the whole time.
That's true. Yeah, you got to, I get that.
And that's the hard thing. Like that's the perfection, right? That's the perfection of like saying, well, how do you, stop the flood from happening. You make sure and care for the lake or the levee before it ever is. Right? Does that make sense? You go to the root of it. That's what I'm saying. Is how would I deal with a step back? I mean, like to be able to calm myself, to be able to do those things. The challenge with them is a lot of times what happens is when we build that so strong, then we know and we put ourselves in situations where we actually have to step back because we know the muscle's so strong. It's like the guy that's standing and knocks the dude out. He had prepared so much to a point where if somebody acted a fool, he knew he could knock them out.
Okay.
That is a good thing, but it can be a challenge too, right? Because, you know, I just think that in the when you prepare the way that God has us to prepare, we have the tendency to avert situations that we never have to learn from. And that's the hard thing because, like, say, for instance, you miss a flight on a plane, right? Okay, I was late and I missed the flight.
And you get pissed off and angry.
Right, and so I'm there, but I missed the flight. And nothing happens. I don't know where the flight went. I don't research it. I don't do anything like that. I don't know all the craziness that I averted. Therefore, most of the time, I'm not thankful for that time of missing the flight.
Yeah.
So, but that's the hard thing. When God calls us to wisdom or spend time with Him, when we have wisdom, when we spend time with Him, He gives us wisdom, He gives us knowledge, gives us understanding, insight, discretion, discernment, discipline, strength. There's so many things in our life that we're not going to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why He wants us to be thankful, like wherever we're at, because at the end of those things, if we went through them or we experienced all those things, then we'd be like, oh, I'm so grateful that I missed my plane, but it got hit by whatever. Most of the time, we're never going to see the things that we averted.
Yeah. Okay.
When we're walking with
You're
Him.
right, because you don't know what you didn't. You don't know what you missed.
Yeah.
Listening to you talk about the step back muscle, I think that there's different situations. Like what we said earlier. Okay, go ahead.
Too, for everyone, like I just said that. Like I don't have a
No.
theory on
But
it.
here's my idea. So you fight like you train. That's pretty much a known thing. You fight like you train. That's instinct takes over, whether that's and usually fighting is in a very high stress environment. Whatever, it doesn't have to be like physical fighting. It can be emotional. It can be, financial. And so you train. And so when I train shooting, for example, I go to the range, okay, where I practice my technique. Okay, low stress. I wouldn't say no stress, but low stress. Okay, so I'm practicing my technique so that when high stress happens, my technique is there. My question, and I'm not sure of the answer yet, is that to get my step back muscle working, like, okay, the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I know only the first step because I stopped reading after I heard the first step because it was enough for me.
A lot.
Pause.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a high-stress environment, it always is an advantage for me to pause and take a breath because that's the beginning of stepping back. Yeah. However, how do I practice that when there is no stress? Okay,
that's the hard thing.
And so that's hard. What is it? Flashcards? I'm saying there's no right answer here, but I think the answer can be found in the intensity level in a situation. There's plenty of low-level situations where it's easier to use your weaker step-back muscle. Okay, if you use the pause, let's call it. Let's maybe say that's one of your things. And you use it when things are like at DEFCON 4, okay? You know DEFCON, right? DEFCON 5. DEFCON 1 is we're launching nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're at DEFCON 5 or 4 in a situation, pretty easy to use your step back muscle. When you're in 2 and 1, really hard. So if you practice at 4 and 5, when you get to 1, it's instinctual. You know, high stress, the first thing you're going to do is breathe because you've trained your body that resets you. So maybe that's my answer.
Yeah.
Use it when it's easy. Then when it's hard, you'll have it. Got a second question for you, unless you have a reply to that.
No.
Okay. Second question is like, okay.
And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're not watching it, Craig is actually writing down questions. So
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're writing them down on your phone.
Kelly, no, I'm not. They're here. No, I can't, because you say so many things that are cool and interesting.
Well,
and then I have 6 things like I'm going to say that, but then I start listening to you and I have another one. So, but the only other one is this. I was watching this show called The Beauty on on one of the cable stations, and it's a show basically about Ashton Kutcher has this thing. You take a shot and you become like a young, beautiful person, and you go into like this pod and you come out. It's pretty disgusting. So, but there's some negative consequences to it. The point is, he used to be an old dude, and he invents it. He's a billionaire, and he takes the thing, and now he's Ashton Kutcher. Okay, he goes from looking like like, you know, some old dude, like with a guy in the Muppets on the second floor, you know, some old gray-haired dude to being Ashton Kutcher. Well, his wife is Isabella Rossellini, okay? Back in the 80s, she was hot, okay? I mean, self-admittedly, she's not hot. I would say something, but I don't want to offend you, Isabella Rossellini, but I still think you're a very interesting person, but she's old, you know? She's overweight, she's old, she's got wrinkles, and they sneak in the sons, their sons who've now also taken this drug, and they've gone from being losers to being like these amazing looking people. And one of them actually becomes black. And Ashton Kutcher goes, "Who knew? I was 4%, from Africa." Anyway, Isabella doesn't want to take the shot. They give it to her anyway, and she wakes up a stunning like model. And then once she realizes what's happened, she goes, "You know what? The value of my life is in my scars and my wrinkles. You just took all of those away." And she slits her throat. Sorry. And so she was so convinced that her scars and her wounds define who she is that she didn't want to live. And she became like, an incredibly stunning human being visually. So my question for you is, and the reason she was proud of them is because she learned from her scars. In other words, her scars were useful to her.
Yeah.
If you are you proud of scars that you don't learn from? And like, let's just say you get hurt, something happens, and then you move on, and you're not practicing wisdom in those situations. 20 years down the road, you look at a scar on your arm. Are you proud of it, or do you just get angry again?
No, I like them. I mean, I think it's just about living, man. Like, and when you were saying preemptively, or when I say preemptively, or we talk about the step back muscle, the only way is to live. Like you got to be in that moment and living. That's why I'm saying, like, the response to your question, or even when I said the step back muscle, that's actually just being in the moment. Like I didn't think about it. I've never said it before.
Yeah, and that's great.
Most of the time when I say step back, I think of James Harden and ruining the NBA. That's for my NBA fans.
I know so much about basketball.
But I think that it's to truly have, you just got to live. You got to be in that moment, right? When you're in that moment, you'll create momentum, and that momentum will help you to be legendary. And legendary is not a situation of like, oh, wow, I did this thing and therefore I'm legendary. Every single one of us can be legendary, but we've got to have momentum behind us. And the momentum comes from moments, but the moment comes from just being present with those people and not taking this stuff so serious, right?
And I guess to answer my own question, if I look back over my 55 years and I chart the moments that really changed me, they weren't the like glorious moments at all. I can think of like the top 5 glorious moments, but I'd have to work to think of them. I know my top 5 biggest mistakes. I mean, the top 5 moments where I literally, I failed, I got hurt, I did exactly the opposite of what I now know I should have done. And I look back on those moments now. Had I known then to have that perspective, I think I would have learned more. But it doesn't discount the fact that sitting back here today, looking back on those moments, I'm still learning from them. And they're scars, but I wouldn't trade those for the world. Like if you got me an injection that made me not have those, I'd be very angry. I wouldn't slit my throat, but
I think it goes back to what my mom said, and it was just a one-word answer for all of this, right? And it was just shit. Like that's it, right? And when something bad happens in your life, that's what my mom would always say. She would shrug her shoulders and she would say, shit. Like, what did you learn from it? Where were you able to go? What were you able to do? Turn your phone over.
I had mentally made that decision to do that only because I had exhausted my questions.
Well, and the reason why I say it is because I
appreciate that. Thanks for calling me out.
Well, and just being here. Like we're never going to have this moment again.
Never.
Right. And if we can do that, and then we say, shit, like what if we mess up? What if the camera angle's off? What if the lighting is off?
Yeah.
What if all these things? it's okay. And for us to understand that point, I mean, when I say that, like, and again, that's a perspective. But with my mom, what she was doing, I think it was a big one where she was just freeing me to be in that space, like to be in that moment, to be with the people, to be in those areas. And then you really, really create, like we had a moment with Coach today, you know, sitting with him. And I mean, for people who are going to get a chance to be able to be around Coach and, you know, and to know him, it's a moment, the moment with that you're creating with Cole, like that he's going through the processes, you know, the moments that we've had in here where, you know, like when we came back and the guy is doing the lighting and we're adjusting and we're, you know, things are a little bit tired or whatever it is, those kind of things. If we can do that, that's truly like, I mean, and the wild thing is those moments, you can't craft them. You can't script them.
Yep.
The moment that you're going to have with your son that's going to mean the most to you 5 years from now is not going to be the Disneyland trip that you planned for 50 years and said, I'm going to go like Clark W. Griswold and go on every single ride. It's going to be the in-between. It's going to be like we were completely exhausted at Disneyland. I tripped over something and my son, you know, laughed at me and took a picture and put it on TikTok.
That's so funny.
That is going to be the moment that is going to be like, Dad, I remember this part,
Yeah.
you know? So I mean, that's a rant, but I
I love your rants.
believe
And
it.
there's two things to respond to that. I'm just going to shift to myself now because that's what I have. Nice to talk now. You talking about your son in that moment. You can't script the best moments in life. I really think sometimes it works, but it's so rare that it works that you've got a confirmation bias there. Okay, if you look at a scripted moment that works, it's not that, okay, so now I'm going to script every moment. You're like, no, I got lucky and won the moment lottery, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the best moments in life are unscripted. I remember I used to go camping with my son. I still do a little bit, but when he was like 10, 11, it was so much fun. And we didn't really do anything. And we went, there's one picture I have, it's a video where he's just laughing so hard at something stupid happened. And he's like crying with red laughter. And it's not something you see in people as we get older, where we're uncontrolled laughing. And I don't remember what it was. That's one of my most favorite moments of my life with him as a dad, you know? And another camping moment, we're in a valley up in the Kern River, and we're just literally, we couldn't get our s'mores working and something. And so we're being a little grumpy. And then at about 100 feet, a jet airplane, a fighter jet, flies through the Kern River Valley because they're practicing like it's Afghanistan. Literally, we could see the pilot's eyes. It was so close. And having a jet airplane fly over you on Afterburner can really screw up your day. I mean, and that's the first time he heard me like, holy, you know, he's like, what the, you know, and it was so much fun. And we'll remember that moment forever. Could I have called and said, well, I'm going to camp here because there's a likelihood that a jet airplane's going to, I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea.
And see, this is the part too, Craig, when we're talking about, are you a black and white thinker or are you a gray thinker? It depends on whether we're talking about system or we're talking about people.
Yeah.
When we're talking about people, we're talking about moments.
Yeah.
When we're talking about business or systems, they have to be predictable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we look in those things, if we did, you just have to be in the moment. You do in business, but when you're dealing with systems and culture and things like that, you have to have something that is predictable. Otherwise, a person doesn't know what they can rely on.
So yes, you can't just go through life without a system. You can't go through life without a plan, okay? But something in the military we always say is no plan survives first contact with the enemy. The moment stuff starts to happen, the plan's over. It's not over, but you need to be prepared to step back and make a change on the fly.
Yeah.
And that's when you get the shades of gray. People go, no, this is plan, step 3 says, so I'm not going to go there. You miss the boat. If you miss the boat.
Well, I think early on, systematic is very important.
Right.
And so it's like an artist. There's only 3 colors in life.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So there's red, yellow, and blue.
Unless you're like a goth that's black, black, and black.
No, but all of the black is actually all of them together.
That's true.
Like there's
That's
only
true.
3 colors in life.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, you understand the basics of it, you understand the building blocks. Now you can build and you can be creative inside that point. And so that's what I'm saying is like understanding foundational truths and doing that early on and becoming the best at your craft at what you do. And then you start to add in, but don't get creative before you understand the structure. And so when we're talking about the creativity really comes from being in those moments with the people. And when you have a structure in business, when you have a structure in system, and then you can also deal with people, now you have the holy grail. So now I can say, okay, well, we have a systematic way of being able to do this podcast.
Right.
Like everything is set up automatically, like things are switching automatically, but that took a system. That's not emotional.
Yeah.
It's not a gray. If it was gray, most likely you would lose your mind.
I would.
In that.
Yeah.
And so to have both, I think that God calls us to both. That's why I was saying back to where when people say, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. I don't think that computes. The way I deal with technology, systematic.
Mm-hmm.
The way I deal with people, it's got to be with love.
Well, thinking and listening to you speak, it's like there's a beauty that you see when someone navigates that. When you can watch somebody step back. I mean, you get this as a parent. When you watch a young man or your daughter, your son, step back and process that, it actually makes you just love them, and it's beautiful. It's like watching a great tennis point or a good football thing, or I say football thing, the good thing that happens in football. I guess it's a touchdown. Yeah. And this happened you ever see a Dodgeball, the movie? Yeah. Of course, if you didn't, I'd get up and leave, right? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. I did not see. My wife loves that movie, and her whole family loves it, and so I was exposed late in life. But so somehow at Daybreak Church, the youth group decided that they were going to have a dodgeball competition. And my son came home and he was 11. And this is an 11-year. He goes, Dad, I'm going to have a dodgeball team. I'm like, great. Well, he goes, it's tonight. I'm like, okay. So he literally invited all of his school friends to be on this dodgeball team. Okay. And it happened. It came together. And we started to text. The parents were getting in there. There were kids we had to turn away. Yeah, including this 6'4", son of an NBA star for a baseball star, and he couldn't make it. They're that was their clutch player that they missed. But the thing is, okay, so Reese got wrapped around the axle because the idea was they were going to be purple, like the purple guys in dodgeball, right? So they had costumes they were making, and his costume wasn't working as we were getting it ready, and he threw a fit, and he was crying. He was like, "I'm not doing this," and I'm like, "Take a breath," and he got over that moment. This process was, I have to have a purple armband and a purple shirt, and it's got to be just like this, or it's not going to be good. But he went. Most of his friends showed up, and guess what? They won the tournament. I mean, they beat out the high schoolers. They beat everybody out, and it's legendary. I remember the youth pastor called me. He goes, "You're not going to believe what happened. I'm going to tell you, play by play. It was the best experience of my entire youth pastorship." Point was, it was beautiful. Not that he won, that was great. I mean, it was super exciting and how they won. But I remember the time in his bedroom when he overcame that moment. In his 11-year-old brain, he managed to step back. I didn't shut him down and go, "If you don't calm down, I'm canceling everything. Go to your room." I let him work the problem. And I'm often the dad who wants to step in and solve the problem. But I watched him work it. It was a thing of beauty.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, that's, again, you have to live it. You have to be inside those things. And I don't think that we can ever be, we could talk about these things as far as war is won in peacetime preparation and to praise him in all things. But there's going to be times where you don't. There's going to be times where you have challenges and you're going to be you're going to be struggling. And during those struggles is going to be when you learn a lesson. And when you learn the lesson, if you take on my mom's side of saying shit, it just is what it is.
Right.
And can I get better? Yeah. But another thing that my pops taught me was that everything's perfect. Everything's perfect in the moment that it happens. And can I make it better for the future? Yeah. But I don't want to take away that moment, because most of the time people are like, "Oh man, I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda." No. Throw those things away and allow every single moment that you walk in to be perfect. And sometimes it's perfect for the lesson you're going to learn in the future. Sometimes it's perfect for humbling you. Sometimes it's perfect for kicking you in the head and helping you to understand, wake up right now. Right. But if we can do that, and again, I'm not perfect at it. I just screwed up on Friday, and I did the same thing I've done before.
Yeah.
I lost my stuff to somebody, ask somebody, and, but also too, that's where grace comes in, and the part of, understanding and knowing that if we go to daily bread, as opposed to, we talked about it earlier, like, as opposed to going to day old bread costs less and it's easier to find. But daily bread, you have to be at the bread store. You have to be there on the day of when it's baked. And that's what God is saying. It's like, I don't need you looking 20 years ahead. I want you. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have prudence, having thought of the future, but I need you here with me right now, because there might be an audible that I'm going to call, but you won't hear the audible if you're not listening to my voice.
And like timeline, the past is filled with nothing but present moments. Okay. And if you're focused on, and dig into Screw Tape Letters or Google or ChatGPT, what C.S. Lewis said about how the devil wants you to focus not on the present. And he says it better than I do, so I'm not going to paraphrase it, but really, truly, look it up. What does C.S. Lewis talk about present, past, and future in Screw Tape Letters? But that's really important, being present.
Yeah, but it's not something, that's the thing too, is like, the funny thing is then people try and systemize that.
Yeah, and then they're like, I'm always going to be present.
Okay, so how do I build the present muscle? Well, don't be a dick.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy a plane ticket. I'm just going to show up at the airport and hope things work out. No, that's really, you're just not going to go anywhere.
But I think it goes back to the point of, like, it's not, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Yeah. My brother said that to me, and it was a harsh reality. I said that one time. I was like, yeah, because I had heard it at like a seminar or whatever. And he was like, well, if that was the case, then you would be Lance Armstrong. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, you ride your bike, but you don't ride your bike as good as you do business. And I was like, well, that's kind of judgmental. And he said, that's the truth.
Okay.
So there's places in our lives, we're human. There's places in our lives where you're going to be unbelievably structured. There's going to be places where you're going to be discombobulated.
See how it goes. Yeah.
There's going to be places where, honestly, like, I mean, think about it. There's places, if you look at those four legs of the table, the personal, professional, spiritual, financial, no one's scoring a 10 in all of those at one time.
Or no a 6 even, where everything's balanced. Yeah.
Nobody.
It's lower but balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the beauty of being human.
Yeah.
And so to love people, right? Love people, manage systems. Is there a system? Well, when we realize that the system is nothing more than a list of our screw-ups, then we give ourselves grace and we give ourselves the freedom to then go try and innovate and try something new. And when it works, yay, that's awesome. But don't sit your ego in it. Forget about it. Write it down. And make sure maybe if you do it again, it might work, but it's not guaranteed. But definitely when you screw up, write that down and say, I would much rather not do that again. Although there's some times where when you do it again, sometimes it'll work. When you said, like, you fight the way that you prepare, although there's sometimes the guy who prepared for a long period of time and the guy on the other side that didn't prepare throws one haymaker,
misses
and
it,
knocks him out.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, exactly. Guy who shoots all day long misses the shot when it counts.
Those things happen.
Yeah.
So,
So I get a question for you, and it's a thing that we're sort of going close to something that can sometimes bother me. So you're in a bad situation, or you've just come out of a bad situation, and someone says the following to you. I want you to react the way you would react. So put yourself, everything's just gone to crap, okay? And I go, well, there's a silver lining to every cloud, Kelly. What do you want to do?
You want to punch the person in the face.
Absolutely. I want to punch you in the face. And so that is important to realize that doesn't help in a situation.
Depending
and guess
on the
what?
person.
And there really is no silver lining to the cloud. There literally. And if you want to go back to, like, I always go back to the Holocaust. You're getting ready to step into a gas chamber and say, well, there's a silver lining to this cloud. You're like, there's no silver lining, Yeah. And sometimes things just suck. Not that you can't derive meaning after the fact.
Yeah.
Not that you can't learn a lesson after the fact. So I just wanted to clarify that that's not my mantra. It's like, well, you're always going to learn, because sometimes it sucks when it sucks and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. But that's why I think that God calls us to faith, right? So faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Hebrews 11:1.
Right? And so when we're in a place of faith, we're actually praising based off of the fact that we know his character is good, not that his results are good.
Right.
And that's a tough place to be. It really is. Although in that tough space, when we're walking in faith, when we walk by faith, not by sight, these are things that, again, they can sound cliche or bumper sticker at the time, But in practical application, those things can be incredible when when my, say, for instance, this is not anywhere near, you said the Holocaust and nothing near that, but when my business gets robbed, when I start praising right then, not when the stuff gets fixed or when I find my stuff, but the window gets broke. Thank you, God. Because I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know what, I don't know anything, but I know your character. And your character has told me that there is never a time where you will leave me or forsake me. I know that because of all these other things that have happened. And then when we start stepping on faith, what it does too, a lot of times, like when you said, the silver lining part, I think it's, again, being present with that person, because to understand the gray part of what they're going through at the time, there are some friends that I can say that, even when they're in the craziest times, because of the relationship and the moments that I have with that person, it's created momentum. And we're going to create a legendary moment right now. But if I haven't been, with that person, it's a friend of a friend, and they have a death in the family, and I roll in and I'm the positive guy, and I'm like, oh, look, there's going to be a silver line. Yeah, I'm going to get a punch to the face.
Yeah.
So I think that it's the tough part about human beings is that if you're not present with human beings, you don't get any of the benefit.
No, you miss, I don't know, percentage. You miss at least half of what there is to offer in a situation or with another person. I talked to Cole today. It was Coach. And I said, basically, everybody's got stuff that pisses you off, but if you focus on that, you're going to miss the good parts about the person. I mean, there are a few people, outliers, that there's no redeeming quality, and then you just don't hang out with them. But, I've got issues, this morning was great. Here I'm like freaked out about where I'm sitting at the table and the exact angle. And I'm starting to get a little amped up, and Kelly just goes, hey, Craig, breathe a second. And you said that to me, and I did, because I trust you, and I did. And it made everything better. I was like, yeah, we're just going to sit down and do this. The angle's not going to be just perfect. But
also, too, I'm looking at it and I'm like, here's receptive. A guy who's been on TV for years and years and years, who has tons of experience. The reason why I did that with you today is because what I wanted you to do is I wanted us to be able to have a moment, as imperfect as it could be, and someone look at it and they might look at this and say, man, you being in the thirds would be great. Yeah, but then Craig and I have a story to tell. We have a memory. We have that connection point. Plus, if we spend all the time on, this is a hard thing. When we started off, we were talking about preparation. But a lot of times we prepare, but we never get in the gym. We never step into the ring.
Well, yeah.
And you've got to step in there. If you want to be a better fighter, you got to fight.
Exactly.
If you want to be better at business, you got to do business. If you want to be better at these things, it's not by reading books.
No, I say to people, if you want to do more, if you want to be a push-up god, do more push-ups. That's really the best way to do it. And that moment, to go back to the thing where you said breathe, and I'm trying to get the thirds right, I learned something, because there was a space where I said, and you go, Craig, let me tell you something. In TV or in documentary interviews, rule of thirds is super important. Here's why it is not always important in podcasts. And immediately, you are a podcast, legend. And I'm like, oh, wait, I want to learn. And you said, if you're doing full rule of thirds, when you do the clips, sometimes you're half cut off. And I'm like, okay, makes sense to me. So let's come up with a balance. And you said, my big issue is the TV on the wall. I said, well, let me just move my chair 6 inches. That solves the TV problem. And now we got, hopefully, you guys, it's probably looks awesome now. Yeah. But I learned something because I paused. In other words, there was a space of gray, because I'm right. Rule of thirds 100%. Is 100%. That's the way you film a conversation with two people and two cameras. However, there's a lot of other things that black and white gets a lot shorter. In other words, the importance disappears a little bit because there's other issues at play in this environment. And I got that this morning because I was able to take your advice and pause and breathe. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the big issues was just that we're Bluetoothing the TV and not hardwired.
And we'll get to that.
That's it. And so with that, knowing that, but also too, I probably didn't communicate that clearly, right? And so I didn't communicate that beforehand. So once it got into it, it was like, well, what's the big deal? Well, let's just turn the TV on. Well, right now, we could have the TV on for a small amount of time, and then it switches out.
Yeah.
Because it's Bluetooth. So, and that's, again, it goes to the nuance of people and situations. And, I find that the greatest, greatest leaders. I'm going to spend time with the guys at Camp Pendleton today. It's not going to be about all the books that they read. It's going to be all the moments that they create. But although, here's the flip side of it. If you go in with a laissez-faire, I think that's the word, you go in with that type of attitude of like, whatever will be, and I'm just going to be in the place. My brother just dealt with this. So he's dealing with I think it's his 35-year high school reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 12 or 15 people saying, oh, well, we've got a bunch of ideas, but no one's executing.
Yeah.
And because they're not executing, everyone's getting kind of frustrated. They're throwing it up. They're like, oh, let's take a poll and see who, and it's like, what I told him, I said, look, this is going to be the way that it needs to be is you're going to have to pick a date. You're going to have to secure the place with your money. And then you're going to have to create a link for people to be able to go to and be able to do that. Now, that's the business side of me that's black and white. And when in business, for me, I'm telling you, Craig, like every single ounce of anything that I did in business was absolutely systematic to a point where it was so dumbed down where you couldn't make a mistake unless you set out to make a mistake.
Yeah, but that was preparation, right?
And that is the preparation. Although the hard thing is with people, you can't prepare for them without being in moments with them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I couldn't read a book about Craig and then anticipate how Craig's going to be able to do. I just know Craig over the last 5 years. That's why I said, like, as you were going through and you were looking at your phone, that's why I was saying, like,
I was thinking it, by the way. I was trying to disconnect from it. I was like, this is stupid. No, and then you said it. I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right.
But that's the greatness of our friendship over the last, this has been, dude, you think about it. I mean, it's been almost 6 years.
Yeah. And it's taken a lot of time and to get to where we are. Going back to Reese again to say something that you were talking about earlier, missing the moment, being thankful when something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. Saturday, he was supposed to be on an online class, and I screwed it up. I didn't read the email, and this is an important class for him to take. And I didn't read the email. It said you had to be in your seat with the camera on 45 minutes before class starts. So here we are. We're getting ready to log in. 3 minutes before class, we log in. And it says the instructor has locked out the class. I'm like, I got so angry at myself because it was important for him. Mm-hmm. Now, I probably should have given him the email and given him the responsibility, but I didn't. So it was on me. Yeah. And I was so pissed off. And, Reese looked at me, goes, Dad, don't worry about it. We'll just reschedule. And I'm like, no. And he's like, Dad, don't worry about it. Super calm. And I'm like, take a beat, calm down. We went on to have one of the coolest days together because we had 5 hours of space that we had planned to fill with the class. And had I not done that and held on to my bitterness that my plan didn't go according to plan, we would have missed the day. However, I did have the plan, and yeah, so that was my little story that I thought of when you were talking about that. Mm-hmm. The other thing too is not doing something. Like, we didn't have a perfect podcast here the first time we got together and talked. I mean, I remember I was, let's see, at first I was too dark, then I was too red, then I was in the wrong place, then my voice didn't work, and then, blah, 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 and then it wasn't switching. But those were good podcasts because the content was there. And it brings me back to one of my other, philosophies. It's like a good plan executed is better than the perfect plan never executed at all. Or in the shooting world, a lot of people waiting for the perfect shot die with a full magazine of cartridges. They never fire a shot. It's over. So just get in and do it. Yeah. And you do have a plan, but you finally just have to cross that line and start and then be prepared for what happens next.
Well, my wife would always say it is, and she says it to me all the time, is like, you stick to the plan, but go with the flow. Right?
I like that. That's wisdom. Stick with the plan, but go with the flow. That's a good way of saying 30 minutes of what we just talked about.
And it's just, again, it goes back to my mama, what, I remember being late for work and I was so freaked out and she was like, shit, be on time next time.
Yeah.
My girlfriend just broke up with me. Shit. Be better next time.
This is a hypothetical because you do not have a girlfriend,
no,
Kelly. Of course, no. We're just pointing this out.
Yeah,
you'd show up with a slit throat. Yeah.
So all those things, if you can take that on, and then what it does is it creates freedom for the people around you, right? And once people have freedom around you, then they get a chance to be able to. They're not tight. They're not. They don't. take on your expectations. And when that happens, and I fail at this a lot, because I have a high expectation for myself, and I have the tendency to transfer that onto other people.
Especially your kids.
You know? And
My kids. I do that.
you know, but when you allow that stuff to flow, like, you know, at the Vibram the other night, we had Paul Carrera, and he's the editor of Italian Job, Hercules, Madagascar 1 and 2, Lilo and Stitch, Pocahontas.
So he's done
Winnie
stuff.
The Pooh,
Yeah.
and
He's a big
Spider-Man
deal.
Into the Spider-Verse, and even Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like he edited all these things, and he was the second interview. Well, they came to me maybe 5 minutes before the show started and said he's got a hard out at 7 o'clock. Well, the show started at 6. There's no way we are going to get to the second interview by 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to switch him to the first one. Well, Lotzi, who is so amazing, she comes into the green room and she's like, "Hey, just want to let you know we got a big problem." I said, "What's the challenge?" She said, "Oh, well, Paul's got a hard out at 7." I said, "Shit, like, make him go first."
Yeah.
And so what was so great, though, is he went first, which he represented moments. There was a guy named Eric Chin who started Tiny Prints and scaled it and sold it before he was 30 years old, and is now one of the top venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. And he was supposed to be number one interview, but the emphasis of his interview was momentum. Paul's was moments. And then we had Steve Caballero, who was a legend. And if you think about the way that God set that up, God was in that moment because God said, like, I need the moment to be first, to create the momentum, to then bring on the legend.
And that was your plan.
But no, my plan was opposite.
Oh, right.
My plan was completely opposite. I was going to bring Paul on. I was going to bring Eric on first, which was momentum. You can't have momentum without moments.
Well, what am I trying to say? Your M's were ordered differently than
Absolutely.
the actual M's, but it still worked.
Just the whole order of it. And so it's like, but that's like God's into the details.
Well, the thing that I heard, one of the most critical things I heard you say is when they first came to you with the problem, you said, "Well, tell me about it. What's up?" You listened, you asked a question. You didn't just shut them down and go, "I don't care. The program is the program. Make it happen."
Mm-hmm.
You said, "What's going on?" So that was a little bit of a step back muscle. You know, before you start making accusations or coming up with a plan, ask some questions.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the preparation part, right?
Yeah.
So most people, like, you know, Cole was talking about it today as far as the, you know, how can you memorize the things? Like, I don't think that you have to memorize things that you live.
And yet you got your organization of the things you take notes before you make a presentation, but you got to be prepared to go, well, I do. I have a little, I don't read from a card and I'm not as accomplished a public speaker as you, but I will, like when I was on Pawn, I used to do, I had a thing I would do background.
Yeah.
Let's see, I can't remember what it was. Background. First one was background. What's the background? Background, history, and tech. That's it. Yeah. Background, history, tech. And the history is, and then the history, and then the tech was what's actually going on with this piece. If I organized my thoughts regularly into that, I had a guide. You know, I would remember what I was going to say. I often didn't know because sometimes I wouldn't see the piece in advance. But I did have a plan. That's how I would do it. And I know you must have some sort of general strategy that you'll follow.
I do. But again, like, it's like when it goes back to the fact of, you know, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
The way you podcast is different than the way you do TV.
Yeah.
I know, like, even right now, like, I'm waiting for the day that your shoulders drop.
They're like, I just have these huge big shoulders.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
But
no.
it's in the middle. The reason why is because you have been in film and cinema, which is amazing. And I want to learn about that. In the podcasting space, it's sitting down with your buddy and having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I think we do that well. I mean, even with my shoulders.
We're doing it amazing. And what I'm saying that is, like, we couldn't do this on Pawn Stars.
No,
they would be like, look, we've got 8 minutes until a commercial that is 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and then we need to be back.
Well, that's that. You're right and you're wrong. That's live TV, which I've only done a couple of times, and that's seriously. I mean, it's the cut for the commercial. But with that, they actually did give you some latitude to have conversations, and that's where those beautiful moments came in, because those deal moments, they weren't scripted. We didn't say. They had no idea what I was going to say. I didn't know what they were going to say, and so we would let that roll. Occasionally, they would say, "Hey, can you go do that again?" Or that can you say that again or something. But the magic moments came. The best moments always come with that. That's why it's unscripted. That's where if you get talented people that are in an unscripted environment, magic like this comes out.
Yeah.
And so that's what was best about that. Same thing that we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, and again, like it's different, right? Even reality TV is different than you and I sitting and having a chat.
Yeah.
Right. And us talking in that realm. And so when we go into those places, it's understanding that moment. Now, if I come with you to the set on the History Channel, you're going to help me to realize, like, Kelly, we've got to have that background. We've got to have the tech. We've got to have the history. Other one, the history part of it, to be able to say. So we need to hit on these points as we go forward. For me, what I found, again, it goes back to, I don't have to memorize what I live.
Right. That's true.
If I asked you what you had for dinner last night, it'd be very easy. What'd you have for dinner?
Oh, let's see. I cooked myself some chicken and mushrooms and some rice. It was a pretty healthy meal.
Okay. Tell me the 3 principles to live by in strong leadership.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
No, I will give those to you.
But you see, if you go back, if you roll to the tape, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't the cramp that did. When I said, "What'd you have for dinner?" What'd you have for dinner?
Yeah. What I told you.
Yeah. But it rolled right off your tongue. Yeah. When I went to the leadership part, you were like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to set up and I'm going to do this. I'm going to deliver it." So, not to say you don't live the leadership, because you do, but what I'm saying is when we have a conversation, we're present with that person and we have that memory. You can recall things with Reese that happened, the situation that you guys had with the fighter plane, and you're walking through,
telling a story.
You know that, and you lived it, and you wouldn't have to write that down.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to say it better because I have ways of saying it. But if you just asked me if you instead asked me not the principles, but tell me the stories about these principles, I could riff on that, no problem.
Those are the things that you lived.
Yeah, but I did live them, but I packaged them. Like I'm assuming public speakers have a way of packaging and saying certain things about their ideas when they come up. Like one of my principles is give credit, take responsibility. And that's something, I believe it was from Patton. It wasn't mine, but I find that's great. Take responsibility and give credit. And I can now tell you 20 stories of why that works. Okay. Zero defect mentality, basically, and I can go into that. It's like, I always say there's 100 ways to skin a cat, right? 10 of them are great. Another 10 of them are okay. And there's some that literally stop the presses. Don't do that. Stop everything. Well, as long as your person you're leading is doing like one of your 10, let them do it their way. That's it. Don't micromanage. That's where I can't be micromanaged. You micromanage me, I shut down. If you give me the freedom and the trust to do something in that set of okay things, because I'm going to do it, then I'm going to really outperform. I'm going to perform so well for you as an employee.
Yeah.
Okay. But not everybody's like that. Some people actually need point A, point B, point C, and those are the black and white thinkers. To bring it right back around, I'm a shade of gray guy.
Well, and also, I mean, even with the black and white thinkers, you have to have a shade of gray in them when you're dealing with people. So you have to know that, with you, we have to make sure for you to feel comfortable, there's got to be certain things that are there. For me to feel comfortable, there's got to be certain things. But to know that, you got to be present with that person.
Yeah.
And this is where we get challenged is like, all people in the military or that spent 4 years in the military act like this. That's not true.
Well, try something with your Marines. Is it today?
Today. Yeah.
Today. Ask them a question. I say, what was the question you asked me? What's good leadership? Or what is you?
I was just asking that. The reason why
I understand,
but I want you to go back. Like I really want you to go back and watch. Your body changed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to watch it. That's
body,
crazy.
You didn't tighten.
I'm going to step back.
You didn't tighten when I asked you what you had for dinner.
Yeah.
You tightened when I asked you what leadership was.
That's crazy.
The reason why I say it is because, like, when you get to a point, like, if I was to ask you about World War II, and if I was to ask you, if I pulled out an artifact and I said, hey, look at this thing, that's something you live. It flows through you.
Yeah.
People want to experience something that flows through you.
Yeah.
They don't want something that you picked off the shelf and then handed to them because they could have went to the shelf themselves.
And you get a lot of that when you hear people talk. You're like, you're reading a script, dude. Or wait, you're telling me something. What's your credibility here? You don't have any. I don't know that you don't have any, but I can tell by the way you're talking, you have no credibility to be speaking about this subject.
And when you flip them into another realm, then it was like, take it to Dave Blackburn, right? Blackford. Dave, you know, always super humble, all the stuff, humility, which he is. He got on the golf course. He's a killer. Yeah. Absolute killer.
This guy in our small group.
He's an apex predator on the golf course. You don't see that all the time.
Right.
But again, the way you do one thing, the way you do everything, that's not true. Because you could be like very meek and mild in a group of people that you don't know. But when you get in a place where you do know and it's your thing, I see it with you. You're an absolute apex predator when it comes to memorabilia, when it comes to history. Like there's a switch that turns.
Interesting.
It's amazing to watch it.
Well, okay, so you talk about apex predator, Marines and leadership, pretty much they're like synonyms almost. So when you go today, ask them the question. You asked me that for another reason. You didn't want to know what I thought about. I know you want to know what I think about, but that's not what the reason you were asking that question. But ask them about that and see, and maybe poll the room. Some people are going to literally right away deflect to the Marine Corps leadership traits and principles, and they're going to read those to you because those really are important, okay? Leadership traits and principles. JJ did tie buckle. If you say that to anybody person there, they'll know what you mean. And it's valuable, it's good, it's great. Look it up. But I'm interested in the different body posture now based on what you told me. Tell me some stories about leadership. If you ask them that question, they're not going to go to their leadership traits and principles. They may be able to go back and say, in this situation, I had justice, I had judgment, I had initiative, whatever. But I bet their body language will be different. So try it, see what happens. I'd be interested in knowing.
And I think that goes to the moment, it goes to the moment and being able to be with people. And again, like, I'm not saying that all my information is the guru part of it. I'm just saying, like, for me, and this is myself, my own experiences, these things have worked. Doesn't mean it's going to work. Now, when we go into business, and again, when we go into, a culture, I know a couple things that will work. I know that if you start your meeting off with speaking life, I know it'll change the room.
Yeah, and you just know it. It's going to happen.
I already know
it's a known quantity.
And that was a technique that I used from our men's, or not only our men's group, but I built my whole business on that. And when you guys came into it, you're like, oh, wow, this is new. No, I had been doing it I had been doing it in my own business for almost 20 years.
Right.
And when I brought it to you guys were like, oh, wow, this kind of works. And now it's a part of the culture. It's a system. And also, if you notice, when we go into Speaking Life, it's not, we're allowing you to talk for 50 minutes. The reason why is because there's 5, 6, sometimes 7, 8 people in the room. If each one of you takes 5 minutes, 40 minutes from the meeting is gone.
Yeah.
And so at first people didn't understand, why is he so strict on time? Well, there's a reason why. So, but understand, like, when you're dealing with systems, letting people know why you're doing them, because rules without regulation causes rebellion.
Well, it's like if you're doing the Speak Life thing, and then there's followed by, praises and prayers, and they, like, what's going on in your life? My son just died. He didn't, but that stops. It's like, no, wait, stop talking because it's Dave's turn. No, it's like, wait, the situation has now changed. Someone said something that is a full stop the presses moment where you really need to change things.
Absolutely.
Like you're bebopping along with parenting and you find out something really bad about, and this has not happened. It changes the narrative, so.
Well, I mean, I think that all of it comes back to the human side, right? So, and the more human that we can be. Now, again, like as systematic in the business part, write your systems down. Like if it's not written down, it's not a system. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
When you're talking about culture, make sure that you're intentional on the culture and the things that you want to happen, because when you leave something to grow on its own, it'll take its own path.
Yeah, and the best way to grow excitement in a room full of like cocky people who are A-type personalities is to be self-deprecating about yourself, and literally it disarms everybody. Everybody's saying, I'm a this and I'm a that. And you go like, yeah, I'm.
And so
I bench 175, not 460, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just as an example, something you've learned in life that always works. It really literally always works. If people are having a brain measuring contest, that's not the time to go, well, I went to Harvard. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I actually couldn't figure out where my keys were this morning. So I would literally like to lead with that. It just disarms everybody, you know?
Yeah. And then there's going to be time, you know, for us as we go along, there's going to be times where that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, and to be able to adapt, you know, to be able to adapt in the situations and be able to move through. But again, it goes back to the people. Like, you just got to you got to love the people, manage the system. But the system is nothing more than a list of your screw ups. So why would you love all your screw ups? So that was the hard thing for me, because I had it flipped. So I got to a point where my ego was so strong that I actually loved the systems and I managed the people. And when that happened, now I was black and white with the people, but I was gray with the system because I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Oh, the system didn't work this time, but you need to do it because this is what I said.
That's not a recipe for anything good.
No, I mean, it's horrible. You know, you lose people. So, but
good morning.
yeah, it's a good morning.
Good morning.
It's a good morning. You're the man.
You know, you're the man.
Oh, that's how we do it. And we play the music like that.
Yeah, and this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small grooves into launch pad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob started balling on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights.